What is going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Tonight's special show is going to go over a ton of stuff, so stick around. We'll be right back. All right, just so it's clear, nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of myself, Dex, or anyone else on the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. With that being out of the way, need to go over a few things. We normally do our D-Live only show about once a week. We are actually going to start doing a YouTube only show to show love to our YouTube audience. That, of course, is my home base, and it is where I started. There's a lot of things going on, of course, in the world. I'm going to be explaining some stuff tonight, which I believe that we need everybody all in one place. So, just to let you know, if you are on D-Live and if you could pass on, I'm sure mods like Chance over on D-Live can actually pass on that after the first few minutes, we're actually going to be switching over to YouTube only. I do need everybody. I'm going to have a lot of interactive things tonight, so I need everybody in a single chat. Again, that is something that we will need as well. Over on the tube, we are going to have a lot of people. So we, of course, have the normal rules apply, slow mode. There's going to be a lot of people here tonight. We have an extreme amount of important stuff to talk about regarding as far as the coming domino falling and talk about basically a modern day Rome, as you guys probably know exactly what I mean by that. So if you are not getting notifications, remember, don't depend on anybody. In fact, D-Live is actually really great at notifications, but others are not so much. If you're missing them, make sure to click the bell on our website. Go to marfooglenews.com, and you can also sign up for our email alerts. I would highly suggest that you do that now. Make sure to sign up for that email. If something was going to hit the fan, or if we knew 100% that something was going on and we could back it up, we would let you know through that system. Again, that's email alerts at marfooglenews.com. We back up what we say here. We don't just share something and then tell you, this is what we heard without at least giving you a source of where we heard it or clarifying that it is rumor or something else. In fact, we actually put every single article, every single tweet, every single document ready for you while you watch. You can grab a second device and go to our website, marfooglenews.com, and you will find that we have every single article, every single source, like a bibliography of sorts right here on the website. Now, we are most likely going to need a lot of help in the coming future. If you want to support us in any way, please go check out all of the links, especially things like Amazon if you are using them. Again, I'm not telling you to go use the giant Bezos companies unless you're already using them. If you're using them every day, make sure to go over here and click that box. You can actually use our link, and it helps out the show, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, and we will get a small commission off of what you are already getting. Or you can find any of our affiliate products like Nord or EMP Shield, which, again, EMP Shield is probably one of the most important products just ever. In my opinion, I think it's incredibly important with our show or not involved. All right. Let's make sure that everything is good here. I just want to make sure that we're not buzzing. Let's bring in Dex. Dex is my co-host and my internet brother. Dex, are you there, and can we do a sound check?
Hello, Adam. I am here, and hello, Foogle fam. And so, Adam, at what point are we going to make the switch?
You can do it now. So remember, we are doing a YouTube show tonight. Again, we do D-Live only. Tonight we are doing a YouTube only to make sure that we focus on our YouTube audience as well. So make sure to go switch over there. We will be there now. So now cut it. If you're watching on YouTube, you don't have to go anywhere. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on. We'll explain that in just a bit, but we have a ton of information to go over. This is some pretty big stuff that we are talking about. So I just want to make sure that we have everything squared away. Susan Donahue, first off, thank you for starting off the show with support. Dear Adam, with many thanks and much love, if I were a betting woman, my money would be on hashtag Team Humanity. Julie Clark, thank you as well for your support. Massive thank you. Vault111 says, thanks for the host. I'll mod you anytime you need the help. You're all a huge blessing, and I hope you are all staying safe. Much love to you all. Well, thank you, Vault. I saw you on earlier, and I was thinking, what are we doing? We had replays playing, so I thought we would play you. The Last Dawn. By the way, Vault111 is an amazing pianist, and he is just really great, musically talented guy. We host him when we can. Bill I. Breckenridge, I'm so grateful to you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Love you, Fugle Fam. Grateful to your families allowing you to do what you do for the Fugle Fam. May God bless you and all keep you safe. Thank you. And then Zippy Moons, before the show even started, says, so do we work our way to assless chaps, or is it gradual workup? I don't know. That's a good question. With what is going on right now, you might want to just keep them off completely. I honestly. Open House, Texas, 75,000 in Canada, 125,000 in Mexico, ready to end. I don't want to say that unless I know it and confirmed. VidCom, thank you so much. Sean Prey, but I will look at or Sean Perry, thank you. I will look that up though. Open House, Texas. I will make sure to try to back that up for you. All right, so lots of stuff to go on. If you are confused on why we're doing a YouTube show, first off, we always do a DLive show. We've actually been thinking about doing this already, but there is some things going on, I believe, above DLive, and we're trying to figure out what is going on over there. But again, we think we've figured it out. Essentially, if you are doing anything that is remotely adult, they want you to tag yourself and go on to a side thing. But right now there is a bug. So normally you can switch and go over to the X tag, and basically what it does is it takes away donations and things like that. But it will also take away the subscribe button and all that. What I think is going on, and I think that a lot of people are panicking unnecessarily. I think they're going to go by case. I think it's above them. I think a lot of the processors are saying like, hey, you can't have this content after January 6th. And then what happened is they had to make a blanket decision, which I was just saying, I was hoping they wouldn't do that. Again, they got rid of about 8 streamers that were actually in that building on January 6th, and some that were just filming, I think. But either way, now it has affected a lot of channels, and what we think is that we are not normally affected because we're not normally X-Tag. We don't have normal shows. This show, though, there's not really much argument because we are going to be talking about some adult stuff today as far as conflict and future wars. That is something. What's funny, though, is like on YouTube, this is a green subject. This is something you can talk about as long as you're not going into, highly this way or that way. We try to keep it neutral on the show. You guys all know my background and like what way I sway or whatever, but we don't try to go that way during the show. We try to give you backed up information, or if it's not, we clarify, we make sure you know what is going on. In my personal opinion, and this is of gaining all of these stories and all of the things coming from everywhere, it seems like it would be absurd to think that we would not be having a third conflict in our future, and a third really big one, especially with all of the events of last year, all of the events of this year, everything that is happening. We have a lot to talk about. So we'll get into that, but I did want to explain that. We're trying to wait until they get the bugs fixed. I think we should not be affected because we actually try really hard to not, do that kind of tagged stuff because we are not, I guess the political part of it, we don't go one side or the other super strong either way. So that is really specifically what it is. You can talk about news, you just can't talk about the kind of stuff that really pushes the boundary to one side. So again, I think that it is a good idea. We've been thinking about YouTube audience a lot. This is my home base. This is where I started. So I'm going to make sure to at least do this. We actually talked about it last week. So it's perfect time. And this is some serious stuff here. NK, new submarine, launched ballistic missile, is its biggest yet. So there's been a lot of chatter, but I'm not going to exactly, we're going to probably put some of that on the website later. But again, there's a lot of chatter about these guys popping out of nowhere. And I guarantee that means that in about a couple days, we're probably going to hear a lot more in mainstream media just buzzing about this country. That's my theory, at least. It says the latest Pukyongsong submarine-launched ballistic missile comes amid a burst of anti-American rhetoric from Kim. So it says that right on cue after declaring the United States is the biggest, announcing it was prepared for a new round of weapon tests. NK presented several examples of apparently new launched ballistic missiles, or SLBMs, during a parade in its capital. In the past, people have looked at these and said that, that they're paper mache or they're fake or this or that. I think that they do have enough money and enough black market connections to, at the very least, have one of the other more prominent countries that hates us build them for them, or at least acquire them through, kind of the dark ways. If you do know the truth about NK, they actually send their residents out all over the place to work around the world to bring in this kind of dark money. In fact, that is one thing that I know for a fact. I've met actual North Koreans that have, or I guess, immigrated to the United States, and they're refugees. I've talked to some of them, and they said, they told me a lot of horrible things about it, but they said also that they had gone out of the country before, and they had chances to actually get away because they were under it. But the reason they don't is because they're afraid of being punished for it. If they do get caught, it's not very good for them. But what they do is they'll go into Russia, they'll go into other places, and they'll do work, or they'll sell goods. They get these kind of knockoff goods. They have all sorts of different kind of money streams that come in. They also have a lot of connections in the black market. So I do believe they might have something serious. That's my thought. If you have a different thought, that's fine. A lot of people think that it's all theater, that it's all, pounding their chest. I don't know about that. Not at least anymore. There's a lot of reasons why there very well could be some big event that triggers everything. It says the missile is identified as the Pukyongsong. I probably messed that up really bad. At least 4 examples of the new weapon were on display, transported on flatbed trucks, though it's not clear if these were mock-ups or not. The design looks to be a further development of the previous Pukyongsong 3 and 4 missiles. So look at the checkerboard black and white coloring. Is that a symbol or what? Just saying. If you know what that checkerboard means and the black and white, that's straight up. This also goes with NK telling its citizens to steer clear of the U.S. Straight up. And this wasn't actually originally a news story. The crazy part is I actually kind of know the origins of that, and it was actual people getting called back. In fact, some of the people I know that were in this group that did community service for different events, and they were part of the church I used to go to, they were from NK, and they said that they got a message saying to stay clear. This was like a month or probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, before I saw any mainstream coverage on it. So it wasn't like NK was making a big deal about this. They told their citizens to steer clear of the country, of this country, and said, if you're there, get out. Why would they do that? That is what I'm saying. It's really weird. They didn't say it out loud, out loud and proud, and now they're talking about it, but before they weren't. And that kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. It probably should to you as well, but again, none of us should be at least very worried about them at all. They are, kind of low on my totem pole, but anyways, it says
the size of that thing.
Oh yeah, well, I know it's giant.
I mean, come on, that thing looks enormous.
It looks a lot like the Russia missile, and I'm wondering if they just repainted it Mason colors.
And that's from a sub, right? So that thing's, I know that sub's got to be big.
Yeah, that's almost like a part that makes it unbelievable. How would that thing be launched from a sub? I know it's possible. I think we have one almost as big, but that's giant. Look at the size of the people behind it.
I think the point now is not to make them so big, but to make them, more smaller, but just as powerful, right?
Well, so one of the things,
maybe they're an old technology.
Most of the size, and that's what I'm guessing, it is older technology. Most of the size I would think would be fuel. That's not actually the size of it. The part that is in the head is probably a lot more smaller, or a lot smaller than that. And then a lot of that is the system that projects it, if they even have it. I know that a lot of you are saying, no, they don't even have it. They just painted some numbers and a dance floor on this thing, and afterwards it's going to be used for arts and crafts projects in the third grade class there that they teach on dictatorship. Either way, then we have WW3. Russia and China could spark uncontrollable conflict across globe. UK warning. It says General Sir Nick Carter said ongoing clandestine activity by hostile states had the clear potential to boil over with terrifying consequences. The U.S. nuclear arsenal was targeted by hackers in a coordinated attack last month. This is why I'm partly talking about this as well. This hack, the SolarWinds, the access to the Black Start. Black Start was the program that the United States had come up with. It took years to develop this plan on how to restore our power grid in the event that our power grid was damaged in any way. Hacked, got knocked down, whatever it was. If our entire grid goes down here, and by the way, if you're in the UK, Australia, or Europe, or anywhere else, Austria, doesn't matter, everyone should be paying attention to this, because it doesn't matter. Maybe you are, it happens all over Europe, happens all over the United States, and Australia's fine. You guys are all allies. Like, this is going to affect the world if it does happen, right? And we just showed you just 2 nights ago, there was a massive chance that the UK would have just lost its entire grid last week, and they just barely missed it. So a lot of these kind of things don't get talked about, but we should talk about them, because preparing for the unexpected is something that is responsible. It is something that everyone should do. It's something that I do with my family. As you guys know, our point is not to freak people out, but at some point, if you don't say this kind of stuff, then it's like you're leaving people out in the water. Every single event that has happened, some of the 3-letter agencies might have got a warning, but we didn't. The people that were in the towers didn't know that there was going to be this huge operation going on. The people in Hawaii, they didn't expect to get hit on the side of the head. No matter what you think of those events, there were people that were caught by surprise. There are earthquakes that happen, and you just don't know that there's no warning. Tornadoes, no warning. A lot of the disasters that take us out are basically from the side of the head, and there are so many thousands and millions of cases of this person would have survived if they would have prepared. We only have one life. Some people are just totally ready, and they think, hey, if I am taken, that's time. That's fine. But there's also people like me. I'm not so much worried about myself. I'm more worried about my 3 little girls. I'm more worried about my little son. I'm more worried about that. I'm more worried about my wife. Most of us are patriarchs or matriarchs of our family that actually, care about somebody else other than ourselves. I've thought about that, especially anyone with a terminal illness. Once you find out you might not live as long as other people, you start thinking about other people and how they're going to be affected after you're gone. I think all people should think about that, terminal illness or not. Yeah, I hope you guys understand that. So it says, and this hack was huge. All 5 military branches, Pentagon, everything. And Black Start being accessed, the whole grid knocked down. That's where, you have to have water, you have to have food, you have to have everything. It says the United States nuclear arsenal was targeted by hackers in a coordinated attack last month. The national, and that was one of like 8 stories. Black Start was accessed, the nuclear facilities, all sorts of things, hospitals, EMS, all sorts of things. And the country's National Nuclear Security Administration confirmed it. It says, with Senator Mitt Romney comparing the situation to a Russian bomber flying undetected over the country. Now, put aside who said that and think about what they possibly could be doing that for, or could be saying that for. He also criticized, because, by the way, everybody wants to be quoted beforehand, especially some of these people higher up. They want to be quoted and say, oh, I told you so, or they want to be, They would do or say something beforehand, so later they could go back to it and quote that. Especially people who very well possibly could be running in the future. Do you know what I mean? They don't say anything on accident. They've got advisors telling them what to say. So when they do say things, I pay attention very closely. It says he also criticized the T-Man administrations for failure to respond to the attack, which blamed on operatives of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. See, they're pointing this way. One thing that I want to say, T-Man administration or not, we don't know what the response to this was. I don't know how somebody who is that high up would say that, unless he was in a meeting or he knows something we didn't. I don't think he's on any of the boards that would actually find that out. I should have probably checked beforehand, but I don't think he's on any of the intelligence boards. So how would he actually know what the response is? The public wouldn't be alerted to all of the responses to that nature of an event. They're not going to tell us what, these incredibly high up 3-letter agencies are doing about that hack. In fact, who knows who did it? We still don't. They don't have 100% proof it's that way. It's just that media and everybody is pointing you that way. So let that soak in. Is it really them? And who is saying it? What side is you'll get it. General Sir Nick, speaking into the Gray Zone, a new Sky News podcast, which debuted on Saturday, said that cyber activities had the potential to, quote, light a fuse if it were either misunderstood or escalated. He added that if you look back over history, it's those moments of miscalculations which often precipitate what ends up being an uncontrollable state of conflict. It says, and that's the bit we really, really have to watch. So this kind of pulls in as far as that hack. Sir Graham Lamb said this. And again, there's a lot of these weird quotes. It says, the other end of it is that our opponents will have found a way to unravel our democracy from inside. Are they still talking about that country or somebody else? It says, and our freedom, our way of life, and all the things that we espouse would have been undermined, and we won't have noticed it. This part is incredibly important. This general from UK is, I think, on top of what he's saying here. At least the quote is. It says, a former director of special forces warned the UK was facing a, look at this. That would trigger things all over the place, right? Insane. To borrow a phrase from Sir Winston Churchill while comparing the situation to the rise of this. Check that out. So these are respected people. These are educated people. These are people with actual educations. These people are actual respected folks that are saying this. And people kind of poo-poo things like this because it borders along that thing where all of culture looks down upon. You're looked at like you're crazy because you're pointing out things to your friends that they're like, who cares? Or they say, oh, okay, sure, buddy, even though the longer that you look into it, the more you believe. It says, we added, quote, we are neither in a state of peace nor are we in a state of conflict, but we are sitting in this very dangerous place in between. This is not a case of a cold conflict against here. It says this is not a new Cold War against Russia. This is the 1930s. Do you guys know exactly what he's talking about? If you don't, there are plenty of people who will tell you what's up with this statement. It says, General Lamb, who has left the military, said, so if we do not recognize that we, in that period of 1931, 32, 33, that's a weird thing. And it says, and we are in a gathering storm. And if we do, as we did at that time, merely try and accept that other would act in our best interest when they absolutely by design did not intend to, then don't be surprised if we end up in 1939 in a conflict which nearly took this country and which will change the global order as we know it. The global order is in who's in charge. Heavenly mandate. Putting someone that's down here up there. Reorganizing. And he's using specific years as a he's quoting out different years from the big events that happened in 31, 32, 33. That's part of the quote. He put those 3 years in there and then quoted 1939. I think there's a very specific message here. And if any of the things, if you go to the website, I'd highly recommend reading these quotes. Put aside anybody else quoted in this and go to that quote. WW3, Russia and China could spark uncontrollable. This one, read that and try to decipher it, because I know that there are people, and most people are like, well, of course I got it. I totally get it. There are people that won't. Make sure to look at that in today's context, and then look at those years, what happened. WW3 fears erupt as China strongly condemns U.S. in furious counter-strike threat. It says Zhao Lijin, Chinese foreign minister spokesman, told reporters that the removal of U.S.-Taiwan official diplomatic restrictions is a violation of Washington's relations with Beijing. Pompeo, U.S. Secretary of State, announced the lift on restrictions on Saturday and said that the original policy was brought in to appease this government. It says Mr. Zhao stated in a press conference in China, rejects and condemns the measures and warned that they could counterstrike the U.S. So the things that we're doing with Taiwan, all of this, it's putting it out there publicly. So it's kind of like heralding this thing and kind of setting people up. It says any actions which harm China's core interests will be met with a firm counter and will not succeed. So it's saying that they won't succeed and we will strike back. See, a few years back, you would think, oh, well, we do all this business with China. We do all this stuff. This wouldn't happen. Now, we have severely basically jabbed their pocket. Or at least somebody did. Now, there's lots of arguments that this is all theater, and that very well could be. But I would rather be prepared for something that might happen than sit there and pretend it's not. Subatomic Particle says, I can't afford to help. Much to help. Thank you to those who do. We're all grateful to you. No worries, Subatomic. Please share and bring somebody new in. That's really what we ask for. Dorothy Wright, thank you so much for your support tonight. Ed Whalen, best fam I never met. Love you guys. Thank you, Ed Whalen. Farva, Dex, 102.9 Atlanta. Check it out, Farva. Wes Romans, 10-9-13 says, oh yeah, and Angela Merkel resigned? Some people don't want it on their hands. Doc Bill says, I asked my Indian takeaway if they deliver. They said, no, we only do chicken, goat, and sheep jokes. Good one. And then we have Lola Cafe. Thank you so much for your support. Super sticker. Brodad File says, hey, everybody, stand up for your rights. Also, Marf, you've inspired me as a creator. Thank you. Any suggestions on a budget camera under $1,000? Brought it out. I'd highly suggest one of the Canon Rebel cameras with a 51.8, a nifty 50. They're cheap and they're extremely good at doing video. Lisa K, apparently we forgot history because we were repeating it. That is a perfect point, Lisa K. This is history, and that is exactly what Lieutenant General was saying. And then the Broaded Files, again, thank you again for that. Surviving the Red Pill says, appreciate all the hard work you and Dex put into your shows. You have given me hope in times of fear. Knowledge is power. That is huge. Surviving the Red Pill, if that's an accident, make sure you let me know if you accidentally did that. But if not, either way, thank you for helping independent journalism. Thank you for supporting our channel. And again, just want to make sure that, I don't want to put you in a weird place. You can always hit me up off of camera on DM in Twitter. Lostro, watch 45 and Q work their magic in the next few days. Buckle up and pray for the Republic. Lostro, thank you. Gone Girl 777, thank you so much. Massive support to our channel. And again, somebody who lives what they say they are going to do, listening and busy. Love you all. That's no worries. And Gone Girl, thank you, and thank you. I know that you have, actually, I've seen you other places as well supporting, and I seriously, there are a few people like End Times. I see him supporting Chamonix, supporting all these other creators, and I'm super impressed with everything that you guys do. Thank you. It's a few of you that actually support a broad number of channels that need it super bad right now. So thank you. Jeff Dillon, thank you from Canada. I appreciate it. All Light, love you, Marf and Dex. Ohio governor announced 400 plus National Guard at Ohio Capitol. So they actually added another 15,000 or something like that. Now it's going to be 21 to 25,000 at DC. So there's a lot going on. This is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. It says the U.S. Secretary of State said that the self-imposed retractions were now null and void after being introduced in the 1970s on Saturday. It says Joseph Wu, Taiwan foreign minister, called the lifted restrictions a big thing for Washington-Taipei relations. Now, Dex, can you explain this Pompeo? And I know you got some stuff going on in the background there too. But can you explain kind of why people should pay attention to this story as far as the restrictions with Taiwan?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of tension between and rightfully so, I guess, between China and Taiwan, and especially a lot of dispute over who should be controlling it and whether or not they should be independent. And we've been holding a very strong position in supporting Taiwan. So the things that we do, the actions that we take are very much at the spotlight of China and what they're thinking about as it relates to that topic. So it's very, this is it's a hotbed, sort of like Hong Kong was in the past, right? So this is just as critical and maybe even more contested than Hong Kong was, because that was actually set up to be, a certain way, and it just happened to change the way they did it. But this Taiwan, it really feels like it's separated and expects us to support them.
Well, so, and this is only a small part. There's so many things that go into this. So I'm going to go quickly through some of this stuff, and you might have to watch it back. But I want you to pay attention to the fact that the Chinese government had about half, almost 100 nuclear scientists resign and leave their posts, even though that they're dealing with a government unlike ours. Like, you can, if you're the Secretary of State or something like that, or if you're a scientist here, you can leave your post. You can say, hey, I quit. F you guys on the way out. I will let the door hit me on the way out. Thanks. Bye-bye. I'm going to go get a job somewhere else. In that country, it's a lot different. You could probably do that, but then that night you'll have a laser on your head or something else, if you get my meaning. So for them to all do it at the same time says that they had something morally that they didn't want on their hands that was so big that they were willing to take that laser because they wouldn't want to have a part of it. Now, what would be so morally wrong that all of them would resign at the same time? Other countries cover this as scary, and I do believe it is. Our country didn't even cover it. I saw, I think, one or two sources, and it was like nothing. But the most reliable sources outside the country, which, again, we've linked to in our previous shows about this, 100% solid sources from Europe, from Australia, from everywhere else, all of them covered it. For some reason, we didn't hear. Very odd. Some of the stuff that we don't cover, some of the pro and anti stuff, it just doesn't make sense here. It really doesn't. Eliza Nunez says, thank you, Adam Dex and Fugel fam. Thank you, Eliza. Thank you. Can't say thank you enough. Again, I appreciate it. And and so much there. Hi, Adam and Dex. Thanks for all of your hard work. So thankful. Stay Fugel fabulous. Well, hopefully we will. Hopefully we will everywhere. Gen X voice, no fear when your hope is in Christ, Jesus Christ. Hey, fan from Oklahoma. And again, Oklahoma, thank you, everybody from Oklahoma. Lots of awesome people there, including my family. Kim Kalausik, Linda Sloat, thank you, and thank you. So along with the nuclear scientists quitting, all of the things that have lined up with Russia's submarine and some of the events that happen in China going back to the drawing boards, something is going on, something massive. And again, this is something that everyone needs to pay attention to. With Taiwan, with all these situations going on, I hope that everyone realizes that there is something in the making that is giant. People say, oh, well, people have been saying this for years. People say conflict is coming, that, Russia, China, this and that. They've been saying it for good reason, because it's been building up. And at some point, it snaps. And then we won't expect it. It will just be out of nowhere. It could be one little thing that does it. Like every single previous conflict. For years and years, they led up to WW2. For years and years, they led up to WW1. And at the very last second, people jumped sides, and you didn't even know. I mean, Japan, we were in negotiations when they were coming over to Pearl. We were in negotiations with them, thought, oh no, it couldn't be them. Meanwhile, they were sneaky, and they were coming over the ocean towards us. As radio announcers, if you were old enough to remember that day, radio announcers were talking about the negotiations when they go, holy, that's crazy. If you go back into the archives and listen to those that day, they were talking about it and saying, this looks like it's all going to be good. And then you hear the radio announcers say, oh my gee, they've just attacked Pearl. So understand that we don't know. We know who our allies are today. We don't know who our allies are tomorrow. In the future, there are going to be a lot of changes, and I think people are going to switch sides after especially this year and what is going on last year, everything that's happening. And guess which country is trying to get onto one. That one spot is where they're headed. That's their heavenly mandate, and they're trying to get there whatever way possible. If you guys want to help protect yourself and support the show, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting an EMP shield. With everything that you've seen recently, it shouldn't be so much of a hard thing to figure out. Again, EMP shield is used by the government, DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. Under T-Man's administration, they signed an order to harden the grid. This is one of the companies that was actually mentioned in the EMP resilience report. It's one of the few companies that specializes in this. Again, you can actually protect yourself against all phases of an EMP, E1, E2, and E3, lightning, and even solar flare protection, an event like the Carrington event. But also, I want to point out something incredibly important. If you have a car that could be affected by an EMP or a solar flare, then I would highly recommend this as well. They have a car model that you can put in yourself. You don't need an electrician. In fact, you need about 5 minutes with a YouTube video and I think a wrench, maybe pliers. marfugelnews.com/EMP. You would not want to be stuck somewhere on the side of the road, or not, say you're at work and it happens and you can't get home. Why would you put yourself in that position? The vehicle model, again, is the most sold at EMP Shield, which is a part of a family of all sorts of protection. Ham radio generator, solar protection, which nobody thinks about. Make sure to check it out. That's, again, marfugelnews.com/EMP. I do believe these will save lives, and if you don't go through us, go through somebody else, you get a $50 discount per device if you go through us. All right. Moving on, can the U.S. Navy keep up with China? Well, so far, it looks like no. They have now led us by 70 ships. Just a year and a half ago, that was not the case. The China Task Force has now put out actual documents on how much they're worried about this, and they even said how parts of our own government are strangely not worried about it, which is really freaky. That they see it and they just ignore it. What would that say to you? So what is going on is that they have put out all these facts. They have actual intelligence that they are just basically boosting up everything. This is a country that is known for its manufacturing, and they are pumping out Navy ships as fast as they can. They are pumping out tanks, pumping out drones, pumping out missiles, faster than they ever have before. And if they actually told you everything that we were doing here in the U.S., they would tell you that companies like Raytheon and others, Northrop Grumman, they are pumping them out too. We actually had great information that ended up being true and covered 2 weeks later from an employee who basically told us that it was so busy at, I want to say, Dex, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dex, but I believe it was Raytheon, that was pumping out missile after missile and missile, so much so that part of the employee parking was taken away to put pallets of these missiles. They were completing one about every minute and a half. Am I right? Or
oh yeah, you're spot on. And the truckloads, the trucking coming in and out to distribute was like, down the street, like literally miles down in full. Yeah, it was a big deal, and it was going on. It was a lot of production.
So why would they be mass producing these things? And then now we know from the task force and others that they are too. So if you've got two countries going way over time, I mean, like, you're talking about day and night production to try to be the biggest military. You could understand part of it is for the industrial complex, right? Part of it is for money, this and that. But their structure, I don't know how that exactly works, but it seems like they are building like crazy, and specifically military. I cannot believe that in just a couple years, they not only surpassed our Navy, which used to be the largest in the world, and now they are the largest by over 70 ships. And that was as of 3 or 4 months ago. In a year period, they surpassed us by 70. I'm pretty sure they're probably at 100 or something like that. And it was just in April where I was covering the first amphibious carrier. They're now working on their fourth in a few months. So if they can pump out military carriers that normally take years because of their actual ability and the locations that they have the ultimate power. They don't have to wait for somebody to sign off on a property. They basically can push anybody out of any property and use that for production. So think about that. Some of the things that stops the U.S. or any other country from producing, or say they need to make a factory to make 10 more ships, well, they might have to get the property to make it that is secure and not visible from the sky or this or that. And then they've got to get permits. Then they've got to get this. All of those roadblocks are gone for them. And they've made sure of so. We've had folks call us that are over there, and they've said, this is insane. They're blocking out whole areas of some cities building this stuff. For what reason? At the same time, they've told their actual military to prepare for conflict. I mean, these are not very vague signals here. They're straight up telling them, hey, spend time with your family right now. Say your goodbyes because we're about to go to conflict. Directly from the military to their soldiers. Some are going to say, "Oh, well, this is all for theater, and it's all Ganda, and it's all this." Either way, would you rather be prepared than think, "Oh, no, it's never going to happen. It's just all news," right? That's really up to you. It says, a new U.S. Navy strategy paper from the Chief of Naval Operations calls China our most pressing long-term strategic threat, pointing out that the nation's rapid and massive ongoing naval modernization efforts, militarization in the South China Sea, which we haven't even gotten to yet, aggressive maritime operations, and grand ambitions to emerge as the preeminent global superpower. It says China is aggressively building a navy to rival our own, already possessing the world's largest fleet. It says China continues to build modern surface combatants, submarines, aircraft carriers, amphibious assault ships, and next-generation fighters. The CNO NAV plan states now they are extending their infrastructure across the globe to control access to critical waterways. Chinese naval expansion has been on the Pentagon's radar for many years now because of the pace and scope of which it has been adding new platforms. It's on their radar because they're going, holy crap, look at all the stuff they're building, and they're building it simultaneously, writing blank checks for everything. It says adding new weapon systems and expanding provocative operations in areas near Japan and the South China Sea. The Chinese Navy, which itself already grown to more than 300 ships, also massive. And by the way, it was at 270, so I was right. It's over 100 now. I believe 100 over ours. Also massively increases its activity through cooperation with other parts of its maritime force. It says, operating under the cover of the world's largest missile force, the PLA Navy plan deploys alongside the Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia to harass global shipping and exert pressure on regional countries below the level of traditional armed conflict. It says, of equal or greater concern is the reality that China is not only quickly increasing the fleet size, but substantially increasing the drill exercises, combat training operations, and other war preparations of concern to the United States and especially Taiwan. It says a new Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard new strategy document called Advantage at Sea further enforces the CNO NAV plan by taking a hard line on Chinese expansionism and detailing a number of what states are saying aggressive Chinese ambitions intended to, quote, corrode international maritime governance, deny access to traditional logistical hubs, inhibit freedom of the seas, control use of the key choke points, and deter U.S. engagement in regional disputes. China's Navy, the strategy explains, has nearly tripled in size over just the last 2 decades, and the PLA Navy wants to operate as many as 5 carriers, double its fleet of destroyers, and add new high-tech, heavily armed warships, amphibs, and coastal patrol boats, among other things. So it's insane. Everything I said 2 years ago is all mainstream now. Everything that I said 2.5 years ago is all mainstream. If you've been watching the channel long enough, before any of these stories came out, I told you we had sources saying that they were building ships undercover, not visible from satellites, that they saw it with their own eyes from a boat. And then what happened? We ended up getting the photos that ended up going to the Pentagon, and they ended up finding out about it. And I said, this is chatter. We had to clarify. And I said, my opinion, though, is that this is exactly what they're doing. And now it is confirmed, and we have good sources to say so. Isn't it? Does anybody? Yeah. And, some people, whenever I say I called it, they say, oh, you're patting yourself on the back. I'm not trying to. I also think that it's really good for us to make sure that we clarify that we don't make too many mistakes. And that we are right because we're very careful about saying things. And if we say things, we say it with meaning. And we say it to make sure that we are not just throwing stuff out there. I make slight mistakes on Twitter, but on the show, we make sure. We spend a lot of time making sure that we don't say anything that could be called, F news or this or that. So if you were there long enough to remember me talking about this when I was doing videos from my car, it's all here. We need to set a level of trust between the Fugel fam and myself so you guys actually take it seriously. It says the rapid growth is enabled by robust shipbuilding infrastructure, including multiple shipyards that exceed those in the United States in both size and throughput. In conflict, excess PRC industrial capacity, including additional commercial shipyards, could quickly be turned into military production and repair, further increasing China's ability to generate new military forces. This isn't a game of Command and Conquer, but it sure seems like it. You look at a satellite and you see the shipyards, and it's almost like they're playing against the AI at the hardest level, right? And they're making tons of bases. If you've ever played that game, we're going to destroy their forces. We're going to destroy a lot of them, and I'm sure we're going to cut through some of them like butter. But when they have the ability of making 10 more, and our one ship that took out 10 then gets surrounded by 11 ships, it might take out 10, but that 11th is going to get it. Everybody underestimates China because they have the stigma of China being this backwards, making crappy products. Yes, they made crappy products because it was making them rich. They would go cheap on everything. But that has changed, and experts have said they've looked at it side by side. In fact, there is a reason that they make articles saying, "Oh, the Chinese stole our blueprints, made our jets, but they're not as good as ours." There's other experts that have physically seen the jets, and they say it's an exact copy, same material, same everything. So it is the same jet. And the reason that matters is because the industrial complex north of Grumman and Raytheon and all them, they don't want to look stupid and look bad like they're making crap, that China can make what they make. Or they don't want you to think that they have the same stuff. They are perfectly capable of making quality products. I love how some people will literally sit there and say that they make nothing but cheap crap, but then, I've actually talked to somebody on Zoom that had a whole product line of collectibles behind them made in China, handmade, everything else. I'm like, any country has the potential of doing it if they have the money, and they have the money. And that even just this last year and this year should prove that they've got enough money to get to anybody.
Well, and I know you just said it, but it bears repeating. It's not just the speed, right? They've got the speed, they've got the quality when they need it and they want it, but they also have the technology, and they got that technology from us in various ways. Some of it they got for free, some of it they got it through other means. But the point is that has allowed them to leap, very fast into this position, not just in quantity, but in having quantity that is actually capable, right? And I think that's what, really should be concerning to a lot of people.
It was drilled into our head that they had. Part of it was I read documents that were declassified from the 1970s that said it was an actual operation to calm people, to say that China had poor quality of stuff. Same with Russia. Russia's catching up a lot too. Russia's a little bit more backwards than China, but China, they know what they're doing, and they're doing it hardcore. And they have no shame in doing some of the things they've done. They are a modern day, that's crazy. And they're using the most technologically advanced surveillance systems to run their country. So if you think about the extra work you could pull out of people if you could make them do it, and sometimes they disguise it well. Like how they make everybody that lives there, have the WeChat app, and you get your social credit score. That's in place now. If you don't know about the social credit score, you got to go back. We did a whole show on it in Adhar, how these countries are getting all the logistics, all of the biotech, I'm blanking on the word. Fingerprints, iris scans, all of their information, and biometrics, and they're taking that and they're putting it into the most high tech surveillance system ever made, and they can squeeze anything out of anybody. And I said that this was going to come here. We're doing the same thing. It's just different people behind it, and now it's here. And people don't realize it, and most people are drilled into their head that they need to be focused on this whole thing, saying, yeah, we back him up because that guy's a jerk. Books today, blank tomorrow. Brian from High Impact said it perfectly. So China will be doubling its fleet of destroyers and adding new stealthy type 055 destroyers, which if you haven't seen, those things are insane. China has begun sea trials for its second new type 075 amphibious assault ship and begun construction of a third. Now, another thing is that stigma that sticks with you. One thing that I try to work on, and that everybody should, is being able to change your mind on things, not being so stuck in some of the ways or some of the things that you've learned. Some people are not able to relearn, or they think they're right on a subject and then they don't even listen to the opposite side. Part of it is cognitive dissonance.
Well, and you don't actually have to subscribe to it, but you ought to, at least with logic, apply it and say, what would the outcomes look like so that I can be prepared for that, right? I may want to believe one thing, but if I'm prepared for two, I'm better off.
So I agree completely. Also, I want to let you know, in less than a month, we're going to be hearing about the fourth. I already know that they're just now talking about the third. We're going to be talking about the fourth in a month, which I think is insane. Third Chinese aircraft carrier nears completion and amid shipyard expansion. South China Sea. This is the next subject. As far as South China Sea, we have people that have actually been out on the boats. We've got Navy folks that have been on some of these runs, and they run right by it, and they've gone up to it. They've been called out. These guys, if you remember in the very beginning, there was nothing there, or there was little pieces of tiny dirt land. What they did is, if you don't know the story of South China Sea, they had these little tiny, grass patches, some sticking up, some places nothing. And it was deep enough water for them to have this, but it was also at a level where they could actually grab dirt and grab land from the bottom of the sea. They had these special big, huge boats come in with pumps, and they pumped dirt from the bottom of the seafloor up and made a pile and pile and pile and pile until they made a full island. Then they made 2. Then they made 3. All of these islands they made out of virtually nothing. It was a very big question if they were going to be militarized or what they were using it for. Oh, they might be using them for oil or this or that. And people were like, oh, it's a financial thing. Some people say that it's not a halfway point to the U.S., but it is actually, I believe, a forward operating base, closer to the U.S. than it is, than China is, of course, and a spot where they could refuel, where they could take their boats. And what have they done there? They've made runways. They have put anti-air. They have put tanks. They've put all sorts of different military gear there. On top of that, it works basically as a stationary carrier. They have multiple. They've made these, and now they are expanding even more. I believe that they are not even showing us most of the pictures. I believe Spratly Islands have gotten even worse. From what my buddy says that was on a boat, on an actual Navy ship that was going by, he says that they haven't even declared some of the stuff to the media. He believes, and this is, again, you can't confirm this because it's not media yet, on top of the already scary stuff we know about on the Spratly Islands, he says that they're actually expanding on that. And soon we'll find out that the stuff that they're putting on those islands is like a sure sign of this. Why would they not want to tell us that if it was true? Think about it. These are stationary carriers. One of the point was the logistics of it. Before, years and years and years ago, it was actually really hard for them to come over and physically invade because they didn't have, that was very hard with old technology. They had, gas guzzlers. Now they have more efficient ships. Now they have places that are other places. That's why they're saying they're going all over the world to get these places kind of beefed up. And on top of it, they're switching countries. They're switching countries from our support to other support. In fact, Dex, we covered about how the Latin Americas, or the what was it, South America? What was the trio called? They had a special name for it. We basically stopped supporting them financially under, I want to say, the last Prez. I want to say it was, or maybe it was T-Man. Guess who stepped up and started helping them? Russia and China. And that would be a ticket through the bottom of our country. So it seems like they might want to, do a surrounding route to this kind of thing and have a lot of people inside.
It was Central America. It was El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras.
Exactly. Stop supporting. You had that angle, right? Now check this out. In Canada, they passed a very special law, which a lot of people at the time said this is a really weird law, where Chinese military could actually sit in Canada and they did not have to notify anybody if they were protecting one of their sovereign state properties. So they could actually bring troops into Canada, even if it's right on our border. They could bring troops to those areas to protect it. And there's no numbers specified, but they basically say they don't have to let them know if they're protecting one of their properties. So technically, they could bring in 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 100,000 and place them at one of their owned, Chinese government-owned properties and say, hey, well, we needed 10,000 to protect it. You guys put 25,000 at your capital. They put those there, and that's a weird law. So then that's the top. You got the bottom, the top, and you've got the sea with the South China Seas. The South China Seas are getting loaded up. And before, when they did this, we were able to track some of this stuff. People were buying these Fitbits. Well, some reverse engineered. They were able to see that there was all this action in the South China Sea of actual Chinese military personnel. We were able to see a whole lot, and it was like buzzing. It looked like cities were over there. So I really think people should pay attention to what's going on with that. Of course, that's why we're pulling in extra people too. This is going to be the most bonkers conflict we've ever had. It says China will soon have more submarines than America. That's alarming. So does anybody see the writing on the wall? First, they had the biggest navy. Now they're going to have more submarines. And what is rumored is that they're going to double our ground force as far as tanks and things like this. That hasn't been confirmed yet. But right here, in writing on the wall, Popular Mechanics, reliable source, says that they are going to surpass us in submarines. Now, submarines are an extremely important tool of conflict. I firmly believe this. I firmly believe that something is going on. It's like some massive thing is going to happen and they're making power plays. The global order will change. That's what Lieutenant General said, and I think he is right, unless something goes differently than what's planned. It says in the next 10 years, China will have more submarines than the U.S. as the country continues to both grow and upgrade its undersea fighting force. The U.S. will have 66 subs and all types by 2030 compared to the China's projected 76. So that's how fast they're making them, that they're projected to not only surpass us, but to be way above us. And that's with what we have in the works as well right now. It says, but while the Navy's submarine fleet will be the third largest in the world after China and NK, raw numbers don't quite tell the story. It says China's ongoing naval expansion is the largest since WW2. History repeats itself. It's very simple to see. We just need a timeline. And it seems to me like every person that you say, oh, you've been saying that for years, even the Christopher Greens and people like that, they were right. I think they were right. Some of them went about it for different reasons, but most of them were right. And I think that most people will find that out. It's optimistic to think that there won't. I think it would be better to be optimistic and think we will get through it. Tracy Thompson, thank you for keeping us informed. Well, thank you so much for your support, and thank you as well. Looks like twice you've supported on the show. Farva, Dex, amen, I'm alive. When Worlds Collide, 1951. 4 dots, not 3. Mona Hagen, thank you for subscribing. Welcome. And Max Peoples, thank you so much as well. Welcome any new folks over to YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. It really is appreciated. If you are here for the first time, just take a gander into that audience. We should have an incredible amount of positive people waiting to welcome you no matter what your beliefs are. I love Beagles. Happy birthday, Mrs. Marv. Again, I hope she's watching. This is a really important show, so I'm sure she's probably somewhere. Dorothy Tucker says, happy belated birthday, Mrs. Marv. Oh, that's awesome. I'm guessing she's probably in the chat.
Yeah, she's in chat.
Oh, awesome. Love you, hun. And happy birthday as well. Mama of 6, Much love, Adam, mods, and fam. Gidget M. PA sent an extra 1,000 NG today on top of the 1,000 we already sent. National Guard, of course, Pennsylvania, which has a whole string of things. God, that's a whole show in itself. Toadman, keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Lisa K, apparently we forgot history because we were repeating it. Yes, I completely agree with that. So one thing to think about is, as far as all of this happening at the same time, we have our own situations. Europe, Brexit, all of these other things going on at the very same time. All of this stuff around the world. What I can say, the best word to put it is restructuring. They are restructuring the planet. The great... It can be put in all sorts of different ways. But there's people that are far above the people that are in the news, far above the 3 or 4 people we like to talk about, like Gates and others. Those are a big part of it, and I believe that they have a lot of I guess, pull. But there's a whole set of family members and people that never show up in a single news article, and if they did, that whatever news agency that did it would be destroyed. There are certain people in this world, and you know what? Nobody covers it, but there are certain names, certain people that are uncoverable. Like if they found out where they lived, which I'm sure they live on 10,000 acres, and they probably own their own city that they go to the grocery store, which they own, and whatever else, there are people that they cannot cover. I used to have a friend at the Washington Post, and this person was lower on the totem pole, but he found out about this whole thing where there were certain people in the kind of R family, ends with Oth's Isle. There were certain people that they were not allowed to cover. From the very top of the company said, do not cover that person, even if they're doing something good. We don't write about them. We don't do nothing. And it was across the board. Those people are the ones that are in control. The ones that you will not hear about, you will not see, and you will not know their name. In the time being, if you want to protect yourself cyberly, one of our sponsors here is NordVPN. Make sure to go check it out, marfooglnews.com/VPN. It helps the show, and you get a giant discount of 70% off. What it does is it hides your IP address, so therefore you stay way more private. On top of that, if you're using public Wi-Fi ever, you should have a VPN. On top of that, if you have kids on the internet, you should have their phones, their devices, whatever device is on a plan as well. This plan, one plan, covers 6 devices simultaneously. Mikey Siggs, thank you so much for the support tonight. If that's a super sticker or just a chat, you can always write a message there as well. Kim Kalausik, thank you for your support. You can always write a message with that as well. I appreciate your support. And Sheena Wilson saw black helicopters yesterday here in SoCal. Prep up and pray up. Okay, that brings us to our next subject before we go into everything we know about mysterious dark helicopters. Perfect. California owned by China. Put that in a sentence, then go, no, it's not. How much of it is? How much of it is owned by different people? In the last few days, actually, we've also learned something too. Those powerful names we were just talking about, they just found out over 200,000 acres of farmland is owned by one guy. The same guy that started the computer system you probably use on your PC, started those phones that failed horribly that Nokia had on there. And it starts with an M. It describes his sex life. Microsoft. That's right. That guy. He owns a ton of the farmland in the United States and other places that we probably don't know about. Why would you want to own the farmland? And how could you acquire it very cheaply? Well, after last year, all of the floods and the year before that, a lot of them were bankrupt, and a lot of them went to the bank, and then a lot of them were purchased by people like him. And what's even crazier about that is That same him is the same one who says we need to do all this stuff with the sky to protect the planet. Quinkadink or not. So it just so happens that we had these unprecedented floods and knocked everybody out just to pick them up. Now they're owned by that guy. Well, why would you want to control the food? That's pretty much obvious. Now, as far as California, we know for a fact from actual stats and some that aren't and that are hidden, and we can back that up as well, is China is buying up a ton of the California land. Now, Dex, do you know about the ports system, about the port situation? We've talked about it here before.
Well, yeah, in other countries, I know that they've gone in and they've invested heavily in the ports, and then would turn around when they would, go default, and then they would take them over. The other one they have is the Panama Canal, right? They have control of that.
These are critical waterways. It is how you. This is all. These are all signs that the end goal is to go to conflict and win. Critical waterways, critical transport. Already having your people set up is also another one. The U.S., you're allowed to have right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. Think about how many sleeper cells could be already here. That is a crazy thought. Could be next to you on the bus, could be next to you in traffic, could be at the stoplight right next to you. You don't know. It says everything we know about the mysterious dark helicopters that have been circling Los Angeles. Again, this is a confirmed story, and everybody in California was emailing me about it, not knowing that they've actually been talking about it. I don't know if I don't think we have the picture. I'll show you if I can get the pictures to Dex. He can make it so we can put them in a slideshow. Fugle fam members started saying, hey, why are all these helicopters flying around? Apparently, it's been noticed. It says the dark gray helicopters with no readily identifiable markings and unusual antennas have caught people's attention as they zip around Los Angeles. Crazy. So here's how they know that these are government issued or from something. So on the back tip, there are several different things that mark different types of antennas. And the lack, therefore, of different things like specialized cameras and things like this basically narrows down what these are for. It says, yesterday, plane spotters in the greater Los Angeles area caught glimpses of 3 mysterious Bell 407 helicopters painted overall in what looks to be a dark gray color, but with no easily identifiable markings, covered in antennas that one might expect to see on examples in use by military or law enforcement units. But unlike any we at the War Zone are familiar with, the sightings immediately caught our attention. While we don't know for sure who is operating them or for what purpose, these helicopters appear to be very unusual history, or to have a very unusual history. And there are solid indications that they could be associated with a very secretive U.S. military aviation unit. I wonder if they're watching what's going down at the ports and going down on the ground. Chris Shaw of Shaw's Aviation Photography was among the first to spot the trio as they arrived at Bob Hope Airport, also known as Hollywood Burbank Airport or KBUR, which is situated just north of Los Angeles, on January 12, 2021. Later that day, plane spotter Scott Lowe caught a glimpse of 2 of the helicopters leaving that airport. So this is another one. To me, it looks like there's some sort of badge here. And to me, I'm not going to judge on that, but it kind of looks like a white guy. Don't know. If that it looks like a uniform that you know of, let me know. Put it in the chat. In fact, I'll go over to the chat right now. Does that look like something? It's blurry. It's not that great. But does that look familiar to anybody here? Let's see here. Research Talpiot program. Crack it in Florida Dex. That's awesome. Phil D187 says police, customs, Punisher Skurs. Looks like a clown. Space Force. So, just so you know, Space Force is now accepted into the intelligence community. So that actually would make a lot of sense. Yabba Dabba, I cannot. Unfortunately, I can only go as far as even if I did, you really cannot see. It's blurry once you get, it's grainier because I think he did a higher ISO. Somebody said state trooper. Three state troopers flying unmarked gray helicopters. So there are different colorings. Like I believe DHS is actually white. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But there's some odd stuff there. Somebody says and by the way, you can access this directly from our website if you want to look as well. To me, from this picture, it looks like he may be alone, but there may be somebody in the cockpit. So what would that say? That might say that there's something with a computer that maybe is just doing he flies in a certain area, and then the computer or whatever attachment is doing the majority of the work. But the timing of it and everything that's going on right now. So if you remember last year and the year before, we actually covered a lot of weird stuff, including in Los Angeles and in other cities like Boston and some of the others. I want to say Arizona and Florida. You had black helicopters picking people up off of roofs. You had evacuations. You also had drills with full-on suits, like a biohazard type of thing. They even had this one event where they did this drill where they took something out of the building and it looked like a safe or something. Dex, do you remember this? This might have been right when you started with me, but I was covering all of the weird drills, and they were doing them in public, closing down city streets, all wearing black, like doing these crazy nighttime drills.
Are you talking specifically about the one in LA where they did the choppers through the city and did the decon on the chopper?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and some were saying there was banks or something involved too. It was kind of interesting which locations they were using for their drills.
Specific locations. If you don't remember, you can actually go look at this, and I did videos on it as well. Los Angeles attack, military drill sparks panic. Army Night Stalkers invade downtown L.A. Military exercises rattling nerves around L.A. They were doing some crazy stuff. But experts that looked at it, they said that they were practicing for an invasion. It was drill, right? It is a trip. Loud booms. It says a helicopter lifts off the ground as Army training drills continue. Insane. And then, if you remember, in 2015, there was something called Jade. Helm. That, in itself, should let people know that we need to absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, need to make sure that we are prepared. Now, what about in 2015, they did those drills expecting a certain person to be in office? Think about that drill. Think about the people that they had actually hired to portray something so they could drill these very specific exercises. And think about the timing of that right before somebody they were supposed to be put in. And then for some freak reason, it switched around, something happened, and then they were super pissed that this other person got in. Think about what happens when the next person gets in. And think about this. If they did have some sort of crazy plan to support the military-industrial complex, would it be kicked in as it was supposed to in 2016? Just a thought. And just a complete Just throwing it out there. Mysterious black helicopters. If you have pictures of these, let us know. We will show them here on the show. Again.
One thing on these picture at the end in that article that shows a known chopper, and if you look on the tail, you can see the tail, that little weird antenna that's on the tail piece. It has that same one. So I think if you got to go down to the, not the last picture, but you'll see it. It's sitting in an air on a tarmac, or about to take off, or on the tarmac. It's a different helicopter, but it has that same antenna, and it's a known special ops.
This guy right here, and it has that special antenna back here. It has all the same radios, same everything.
Yeah, and I don't know what that little antenna is, and I think that's what people are questioning, but seeing it on this chopper, which they can identify as special ops, and doing a specific task, and then seeing it on these other choppers with no markings on them, causes the question and the concern.
Look at the place they're going, to the fire station. Look at that. Missile launch silo. Are you guys catching this? Fire station. Swoop around. Missile launch site. Putting two and two? Why would they need to go to a missile launch site? Pick somebody up? That was around Camp 8. Crazy stuff. All right. Brylan films one of America's most powerful submarines lurking near its military exercise. Says the video offers a rare glimpse of an Ohio-class guided missile submarine, one of which is in the region sailing at periscope depth in tense waters. That is a trip. You can actually see it there underwater, and they filmed this thing hovering. I mean, is that just I would get creeped out seeing a whale of some sort, but imagine being on a little tiny boat. Oh my gosh, this would be really freaky. Imagine if you saw a submarine slowly coming up. Like, that would be just as scary as seeing a great white shark, in my opinion. Seeing one of these things. Now, if I was in the Puget Sound and I saw one, I would think, oh yeah, cool. But maybe not, right? After finding out just 2 years ago, Russia came up in the Puget Sound and took pictures, even did selfies and said, hey, we got in. We can get right next to your cities. Nobody detected us because they had their new super silent sub. They said, not only are we past your defenses, but we're all up in your... Kind of like what's-his-face said. We're in your chaps there. It says a video emerged that reportedly shows an Iranian Navy Sea King helicopter flying over what looks to be a U.S. Navy Ohio-class guided missile submarine sailing at periscope depth somewhere in the North Arabian Sea. This is very likely the USS Georgia, which made an unusually public transit into the Persian Gulf, sending a clear signal to Iran last month. And it says the Navy, Navy, claims that the American submarine was operating close to where it's been conducting a major exercise this week, and that it left after being detected. It's extremely rare to see U.S. Navy submarines sailing so close to the surface, this anywhere in the world, let alone in any sort of proximity to potential hostile forces. It says the Navy says that the encounter took place today and that the submarine looked up to be heading toward the area where it had been holding the Equator exercise at the time. This 2-day drill, the name of which means power in Farsi, started yesterday, January 13th, so this is 2 days old, and has reportedly involved a significant display of the country's naval capabilities, including the first ever instance of its lone Fatah-class submarine firing a torpedo. Says the Iranian Navy new sea base type ship, the Markran, which is only formally commissioned earlier this week, and that you can read about more in that Warzone piece. That is spooky. Look at that. That's how big it is. It almost looks like this is a tiny boat. That is just the water rippling from the periscope. It's a gigantuan, I don't even think that's a word. It's a gigantor in ism amazing amazeballs ship. Scary as hell, though. Imagine being in a canoe and that thing's underneath you and you just see it silently going, oh my gosh, that would spook me so bad. Dex, if you were on a little small boat, would you freak out? What if it was Russia?
Paddleboarding in the middle of the ocean and having that go underneath you? Yeah, well, I'd be crazy to be paddleboarding, but yeah. That would be
Why
pretty
would
impressive.
you say paddleboarding? Is this like a
so
secret
I could stand
hobby?
up and see in the water.
Paddleboarding. Okay. Tammy Giacomo says, happy birthday to Mrs. Marf. Many thanks for sharing your knowledgeable husband on this special day and every day. Love, Marf. Family, stay safe. Thanks again. Thank you, Tammy, and thank you for coming in. Amy R., huge support. Been busy building food production infrastructure. Stack your water, food, and protection preps. It's going to get wild. Amy R., I try to shout you out. I know you've been gone for a minute there. Thank you so much for your massive support of the channel. You are in Certain Hall we're making a project for. So thank you so much. Amy R., your support has been super appreciated. Thank you for supporting independent media. One Drummer Guy, big government playing us all like fiddle against one another by design. I pray we can realize that some form of kind of dialect between us before worst case scenario is realized. Much love, Adam, Dex, and fam. So One Drummer Fan, you are basically saying to have a kind of a secret code, I guess? Is that what you're saying? Farva, 2 dots plus 2 dots is wars. See last info. Farva, expect actions and order of operations, a.k.a. strike packages on hostile T. Or is it? Terrorists. I'm going to have to check the Farva. Farsight Institute, Atlanta, Georgia. Dex, will you Google? Or
I'm on it already.
Okay, cool. Patricia Ray, we have sent aid to the third world for years, but it went in pockets. China, through Belt and Road, have built new infrastructure, power plants, factories, and giving jobs. Guess who they will ally with? Yeah, I'm putting that all together. Putting that together for you. Michael Siggs, thank you so much again. Appreciate that. And just to say it one more time, Dorothy Tucker, happy belated birthday, Mrs. Marf. Super, super appreciated. And then, who was that? Surviving the Red Pill. Thank you, and thank you again. New World Disorder. I love that name. Thank you for the support. Jeff Dillon, thank you for the support. Kim Kaslik and Eliza Nunez. Again, thank you, and thank you. And Huckleberry, thank you for being the last one out last time. Seriously appreciated. Pompeo announces visa restrictions against businessmen. Businessmen from that certain country. CCP officials over South China Sea spat. South China Sea is coming back into play of things. It says the outgoing T-Man administration has sought to step up pressure against the People's Republic in recent weeks, with new restrictions coming in the wake of a long-running trade conflict. Back and forth claims about the origins of the CV and U.S. concerns about the Beijing's internal affairs in Hong Kong, Xinjiang, and the South China Sea. Says the Department of State is imposing visa restrictions on the PRC and individuals, including executives of state-owned enterprises and officials of the CCP and the PLA and Navy, responsible for or complicit in either the large-scale reclamation, construction, or militarization of disputed outposts on South China Sea. Does that give you enough inkling that this is a military base? South China Sea. So anybody even related to the construction of that island is now not allowed to come in the country. What does that tell us? Does that tell us that, oh, well, it's an oil drill, of course, and we don't want them here because they're making oil drills in the South China Sea? They straight up just told us what South China Sea is. Restrictions also include adding China's National Offshore Oil Corporation to Washington's trade blacklist. It says to me that they used oil as a cover. Dex, do you pick up the same thing, or do you have a different opinion?
Well, yeah, I sort of get the same thing you're getting there. I mean, that's the cover for that's what we're doing down here. Don't worry about it. It's just oil, and everybody needs
that's what remember. That's what they've said since the beginning. Oh, well, they think it's a financial thing. They think it's oil. You need anti-air guns on an oil field? Okay. You need massive runways and an entire fleet of Navy ships for oil? I guess if you're trying to protect it, but nobody's attacked it because that would be an act of conflict. So why would they need that? Okay. All right. All right, sure. Gotcha. That's what they'll be saying. Gotcha. Gotcha. U.S. slaps sanctions on the China oil giant over South China Sea activity. Of course they did. It says that the United States on Thursday blacklisted Chinese oil giant CNOOC and slapped visa restrictions on officials of the Chinese Navy, ruling party and state-owned enterprises over land reclamation and coercion of Southeast Asian claimants in the disputed South China Sea. The action by the T-Man admin will add to the U.S.-China tensions that have spiked over the past year. It comes just 6 days before Joe takes the desk as the new U.S. Prez. This is even more reason why I think something is just right there. 6 days. 6 days. And they're loading up capitals, they're loading up states. What is, just, as the great Jacob Israel would say, buckle up. That's what I got to say. And then we have T-Man's China tech war backfires on automakers as chips run short. It says automakers around the world are shutting assembly lines because of a global shortage of semiconductors that in some cases have been exacerbated by the T-Man administration's actions against the key Chinese chip factories, industrial officials said. The shortage, which caught much of the industry off guard and could continue for many months, is now causing Ford Motor Company, Subaru Corp, Toyota Motor Corporation, to curtail production in the United States. Automakers affected in the markets include Volkswagen, Nissan Motor Company Limited, and Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. The problems stem from a confluence of factors as auto manufacturers compete against the sprawling consumer electronics industry for chip supplies. Consumers have stocked up on laptops, gaming consoles, and other electronic products during the pandemic, which creating tight chip supplies throughout 2020. They have also bought more cars than industry officials expected last spring, further straining supplies. So these chips that are normally, a lot of them coming from over there, those are getting shorted out. So what does that tell me? It tells me that electronics and all of these things are about to go way up. Cars are about to go up in just a little part of it. But as far as this goes, it says, in at least one case, the shortage ties back to what he signed, which again, I think this goes both ways. I think this goes for the companies that need the chips. One automaker moved chip production from China's Semiconductor Manufacturing International, or SMIC, which hit the U.S. government with restrictions in December, to Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company in Taiwan. So this also brings in why Taiwan has become important, which also brings in the fact that the Huawei, or however you say it, that phone company had all of its chips being made in Taiwan, the big chips. So if you have a Samsung or if you have one of the main phones, they either have usually more one of two, Exynos, which I think is the European kind, or the Snapdragon. The Snapdragon chips, I think I'm saying it right, Snapdragon? They have the Snapdragon chips, the same company that makes those. That's the Taiwan company. Well, since the U.S. has barred their phone company from using any of the companies, including our allies, basically said you can't do that, they had no stockpile of these things, and they had just what was left. So they were making these phones that were not only competing with U.S. phones, but some of them even surpassed some of our flagship phones in features, right? Well, they were actually making billions and billions of dollars off of these phones, and they just basically pulled the carpet from under them. So they're pissed off about that. That's why Huawei and that, which people have quickly forgot about because there's a million other things on the news cycle, that was a big, big part of this whole conflict. T-Man basically ripped billions of dollars out of their pocket. Think about a phone without Google. Think about it without Maps, Google Maps. Think about it without Gmail. Think about it without any American company, without Facebook, without any of these, Twitter, I believe, too. Think about a phone that just doesn't have the capability and cannot use those things. And then think about it without the processing chips. The same processing chips that everybody else has. That's what they did essentially to that phone company. Which, by the way, was just crazy killing it in sales. Doing just as well. They were doing as well as some of the Apple phones. So when you rip that much money out of a country's pocket directly, they're pissed. That's why I think that this is all tied in.
And what happened was they also stockpiled, right? So they got the warning that they were going to get banned. And one of the things that they were banned from was American chips. So they stockpiled before the ban went into effect, which then depleted our supplies, right? And then, of course, they stockpiled anything else they needed so that they could continue to manufacture.
And they came out with a new phone, and they had a certain amount left, and they used it all on that phone. And after that, that's why all the phone people in the phone niche, there's certain tech gurus on YouTube as well. They were saying it too. They were saying after this, they don't know what they're going to do because after this, they can't go to Taiwan for more chips. So there's just this whole dichotomy between this, and those chips mattered. The everything that they just did, they basically ripped the arms off of $1 trillion company. That has consequences as far as that's what they think. They took a shot back. That was a financial shot over the bow, but this is bigger than the shot over the bow. This was like they stuck it in the middle of their body and ripped it up. So
yeah, but I look at this, and aside from the fact that the article is sort of a hit piece and they just use one thing, which is chips, I think we actually have to look at this and think, what does this go beyond, right? Like, take the hit piece out and just talk about the chips. and talk about the fact that there's supply issues in this space, and actually they're controlled and can be controlled by another country like China. So if all of a sudden you can't get the chips anymore because they've been stockpiled and purchased up and everybody needs them and demand is so high, and the only country that has any left is China, and they now control it, and you can't get it, or they won't get it, or they won't sell it. Now you have a new problem. And there's other things that are going on. Like there's probably other examples of that. I know we've talked in the past about rare earth minerals and who owns them and who doesn't, and who has rights to get them and who doesn't, and who owns like 85 or 87% of all of them in the world, and what that's needed, especially in things like these chips and other things that we build even for the military. So and then just recently I saw an article about a sort of a cargo traffic jam, if you want to call it that, in LA, right? And all the ports in California coming in from China. So what's happening there, and what's this going to do to our technology? What's it going to do to the stuff we need to buy on the shelves? What's it going to do to our supply chains and all of that? Is there a ripple effect? And I'm quite certain there is going to be something, and it might even be bigger than we suspect. This could be the beginning of something we'll see to turn from this.
Again, that's exactly, all of this happening all at once. There's things that they're going to depend on. There's things that are cutting it. I just want to stress how big of a deal this actually is money-wise, and money is the root of all evil. It is the root of all of this. T-Man basically cut what we just took as like, this is daily life. This is regular life in the United States. We had everything made over there. We had everything made over here, over there. Once you start separating that financial tie, what is their reasoning for not going to conflict with us anymore? Unless they put all their money into restoring this by possibly having their fingers in media. And by the way, if you don't think that they are involved in media, then you're not going by the facts. We absolutely know. And now it is released, and now there's actual, I believe the task force is talking about it as well. If they have a reach into and above medias, then what can they do? Also, if they possibly had their hand in anything else very big recently, and possibly could write a blank check to certain people, think about all the people that could be bribed or And once they did if they did want to get somebody, one of their special people in and reverse all of this, I think things might go back to normal, but at what cost? Then who's calling the shots? Then all of a sudden, our country would look a whole lot like theirs. So in one way, this could actually prevent a conflict, but an even worse future is ahead. Let me ask you this. Would you rather have everybody drafted, every 18-year-old and healthy man drafted, and possibly women drafted, go to physical war, or lose all of your freedoms? Are we at the point, again, where we have to fight for our freedoms, or will we even be given a chance to fight for our freedoms? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's pretty crazy to even think about it that way. Cameron Combs. Hey, Marv, do you think the storm will happen and corruption will get exposed? I personally just don't know. Have you heard anything more about it? So that quote that you just did, that was weird placement for the general to say something about that it was gathering, right? As far as do I think it's a 50-50 in my mind. I'm hoping, but hope doesn't really spark anything for anybody, right? And we've hoped a lot of things the last couple of years that have been just completely crushed. What was that movie, Joe Black or something? In the first 30 seconds he gets hit by a car. That's how I feel like this year was. So Meet Joe Black. I think that's what the movie was. So, to wrap up some of this, it's heavily wrote on the wall, but I think that they're very well. If that doesn't happen, then we're in a lot of trouble. We're all going to be safe physically, but not spiritually. If you get what I'm saying. I think we will have reduced freedoms. It's kind of weird to put it that way. That one way would be safer, but at the same time, so incredibly dangerous. Patricia Rivas, that was super unnecessary. I hope that was on purpose. Thank you so much, Adam and Dex. Fugle fam, y'all's amazing. MIA and watching replays lately, LOL. Patricia Rivas, it doesn't matter when you watch. Thank you so much for watching the replays. It really is appreciated. We usually have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 watch every night. And to have, by the next day, 40,000 to 50,000 views every single day, that means there's 45,000 of you that watch the replays. So thank you. There's 45,000 of you that watch the show driving your trucks or working in a warehouse or, doing legal documents. Doesn't matter what you do. Thank you so much for watching. Farva, your comment, not mine. 4 dots, not 3. It's pretty crazy. Fight or stay home. Research Farsight Press, Atlanta, Georgia. Will do. And then Kenneth H., one of my first subscribers, I think my 5th or 8th, whatever it was. Thank you so much for your support, Kenneth H. You've been here a lot longer than almost anybody else, but you've also been here a lot lately. So thank you so much for popping in. Obviously, things are getting serious, so I'm glad you're stopping by. It makes me proud that you're picking me as your source for the time being during all this craziness. Frequency, I like how you spelled that. Fugalicious. Yeah, heard it here first, folks. Fugalicious. I hope that's never whispered in my ear. Personally, that just sounds like a chalkboard. Fugalicious. Fugalicious. I'll make a song. One drummer guy's girl. Oh my gosh, there's one drummer guy and one drummer guy's girl. Says, I think he meant dialogue to help with how divided we've become as a nation. Much love. I love it. I do think that we need a lot of that. Ray Jr. says, on April 8th, 2024, after the eclipse, America will be no more. This is according to them, right? It says, a nation cannot kill millions of boos and expect no judgment from God. Ray Jr., in the end, I think it's going to be all of us. All of us will be judged. Dex, P.O. Box 263, Martin, Georgia, 3057. We will definitely check it out. Amy R., The Guardian reporting Istanbul, Turkey to run out of water in 45 days due to severe drought. Amy R., that's biblical. That is probably the final, like, just cementing it in there. Let's hear. Farva says, expect actions and order of operations. Got it. Okay, we got that one as well. Cameron Combs, thank you as well. To all the new folks in the chat here tonight, thank you. We've got tons of you in here. Wide Awake, shit's getting real. Fugle fam, thank you so much. Night, I can see past my 50th year. I turn 50 next month. Corn Pop, thank you. Nice to see you again. Let's see here. Joe Adams, thank you so much. All right, let's see here. Hey, middle finger sticking in the swamp. Yeah, that's a good one. Will die on my feet, not a slave on my knees. All righter. That's a great comment. Twisted Luck Truth, thank you. Thank you as well. 5.2 thousand watching, I'm assuming. So I do appreciate that. I don't know what the high was for the show, but I just appreciate that there was some of you watching. Gem, Shutterbucks, Winston Breaks, Lord Andrew. Adam, I'm so glad you covered this topic. I am too. There's more to it too. So I think we're gonna have to do multiple on this one. Dex, I'm trying not to miss anything. I mean,
yeah,
if we really wanted to go...
The full list is in Screener on, but yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, and then let's see here. No, I more so like, is there anything because we've talked at length about any of the events. Technically, there's some stuff that I couldn't say, but all of the events in the last year and a half, I believe they tie into it as well. Severe.
Yeah, they certainly do. The one thing that comes to mind that we have talked about a lot in the past year, a year and a half, and we've seen it over and over again, is the night training, right? And so just, thinking about what does that mean and how does that play into this bigger picture of all of this, potential conflict that's coming, but the fact that we're spending so much at doing night training and procuring night vision and even taking it away from the private sector, things like that, has been pretty significant this past year. So that really should be telling that what it is we're looking at doing or why we need that. What are the people in charge expecting to happen, and why are they planning for that?
No, that's exactly what I mean.
And by the way, we got about 10 minutes left on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Live, thank you, Tracy Q, going live on the show over to PayPal. Tracy Q, thank you so much for your support there. Blue Homemade Heaven, thank you as well. I appreciate your support over on PayPal. That is awesome. Really do appreciate it. And then let's see here. We also have a few other people that popped in there. Yeah, I think we covered most of what we need. I know I'm going to shut off and think, gosh, I didn't mention that. The training at night, the GPS exercises, everything is all coming together now. And I know there's going to be people that say, oh, the fearmonger, warmonger, whatever. This is something too. This channel is something that you actually go out of your way to watch. The people here, I don't know, I get trolls, the fact that I think their thing is that they're like, I want to, hurt that person or say he's bad or stick around every show because I feel he's doing this to other people or that. I don't think so. I think this is a voluntary show, and I think that I'm talking with like-minded people. Everybody is, they say, this is something, this is that. You only do this to do that. I'm doing this because this is what I focus on. And I'm doing what I love and what I'm passionate about. That's why I think I was successful at this, is because this is what I spend my time on anyways. If I was not doing this show and if I was not doing this channel, I'd be researching and doing this exact same thing. Just as you are at home looking at all of this as well. You go out of your way to find this stuff. You don't see this on the front page. None of it's suggested. Or if it might have been 2 or 3 years ago. But it's not now. It is something you go out of your way to find, and it is something that you only find out about through friends telling friends. So go out there. You are the way that this spreads. And again, if there's people that you don't want to argue with, suggest the show. There's a very good chance that they'll leave in the first 2 minutes. But there's also a chance that they listen. There's a lot of people here that end up somehow sticking around, or maybe they just were looking at things in the background and then slowly it seeped in and then they woke up. It's those people. So you all have the opportunity to bring people here. You bring them here, we'll do the rest. Okay? Because we need a whole lot more people. I don't think there's a single channel like mine at 1 million. We don't care about being at 1 million for the stats. Care about 1 million because then it turns into too much. It would be exponential. We need everybody to be on the same page. So, you don't have to donate. You never had to. Share at the... if you have to, go to your coworker and go, It's a crazy show. I mean, it's silly stuff, but it's interesting. You know, they talk about aliens. They talk about all sorts. Just try it out. Just try it out. Don't tell them your screen name. And then when they come in the next day, be like, what's your YouTube name? Okay. When they come in, make sure everybody love mobs them and say, hey, welcome in, blah, blah, blah. We love, because that's really part of it. The community here is amazing. And every YouTuber says that, but this is a different thing. This is like people that actually care about other people and like really want to help. We help smaller creators because we know that it's going to launch. It's going to come back tenfold. Every time I've helped a creator, whether 1 out of 10 ends up talking trash when they don't do as well as they think they do, or they just expect it to take off or something, they don't want to put in the work or, you know, spend hundreds of hours figuring out how to actually do video and film and all that kind of stuff too. Even then, it's still worth it. People come back tenfold. This channel, I think, has grown almost entirely from you guys sharing it out. So thank you for that. I am very blessed to have you guys around. I have a lot of love, and I feel the positivity everywhere I go. And when people see me, like Kim, keeping it magical, they have a positive, just glowing. It's like, that's why the 90% of the people I run into on the street, it's instant, like an enjoyment, like Marv. And I'm excited to see them because of that reaction. So I hope you all spread it out there. Let's be the first one to get to 1 million. We got to 100,000 on 2 channels. Let's get to 1 million on 2 channels. And then let's get all of your channels to 1 million. Let's show them that we're not a minority. All right. Love you guys. Dex?
Great job, brother.
We're gonna go over. I think you could probably just turn on DLive for the outro.
Yeah, certainly.
All right,
we can do that. We'll turn that on, and I believe the folks here on YouTube, it's got about 3.5 minutes left.
Thank you, Tracy Q and Blue Homemade Heaven, for going over to PayPal. Seriously, appreciate it. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Got the key, gonna do it like, oh yeah. Keith Dyke, thank you so much from Canada. You can always write a message there too. Susan on the H with the Farva, Renee Gumbala, thanks for your support with the 3. Dex 706, 3 more mine, no fight him, 4, thanks Farva for the soundboard. And Cameron calling Patricia Reeve Westmore with the frequency. Kenneth A. Jan and Brielle with the Mr. On C. Ripping it, tipping it, going back, tipping it with the one drummer on guy. Guy 0 in the white world in the AMR in the 5 world.
Motherfucker news in the bop 5. Motherfucker news in the bop 5.
Tammy Giacomo on the Hulk mode. Pull back in the Hulk mode.
Motherfucker news in the bop 5. 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 Motherfucker news in the bop 5.
Going right back with the rah-rah, with the frequency, Ray Jr. Everybody gonna see what you doing, with the Micah Ziggs and the Kim Cole, Wild Lizard, and the Tina Wilson with Tracy, on the Miss Thompson with the Farva, Mona Hagen, Max People, I love people, Tuck gotta go see, go with the sequel, Mama up 6 kids, yeah, Em and the Toe Man, and Lisa K and that Soul Man, Subatomic Particle, so mystical, Dorothy Wright, Edwell in the Mr. G, bring it right back like West Home and see. Every time that I come back around, they say I want to hear that sound.